Kia ora. I want to talk about doubt. Where does it all come from? Where does all this doubt and this inability to trust ourselves come from? Well, if you think about it, if we go back to the moment that you are born, you are surrounded by people that love you or not. It depending on your life experience, your life choice, predetermined by your soul before you came here. And you find yourself in the circumstance of being a vulnerable, very open, very receptive baby, who is then subjected to the environment around us. And that can be those significant others, parents, upbringers, teachers, politicians, anybody, friends, peers around us that influence us and the way that we think, and we take on the opinions of others or their perspectives. That's the way we learn. We learn through what we perceive, what we hear, what we see. That's why we have the senses. That's why we're here using all of those senses. And there usually comes a point, and it doesn't matter what age you are, but there comes a point where you suddenly think, who am I? We all ask ourselves that question. There's not one of us who couldn't put a hand up and say, yeah, I've asked that. Who am I? But we don't know, because it's all predetermined by these early life experiences. And then we find that perhaps our life isn't going as well as we want it to be going, and we start to look in the outside world and say, okay, so if I do this will make me happy. If I follow that career, that will bring me what I want. If I do this, that, and the other. Now, we all know that actually what happens is, in some cases, it does work out like that. Your life goes in a great path. But along that path, there will be things that come up, things that actually, for some people, it's like, well, I never really wanted to do that career, but I just did it because my parents wanted me to, or I didn't know what to do. So I kind of like found myself stuck in this situation, but actually I'm really not very happy in it. It doesn't matter if it's work. It doesn't matter if it's a relationship where we've got one or we haven't got one, or we want one, but it's not the one we've got. It could be that. It can be, there's so many things. There's so many areas in our life. But the main ones that really focusing on today are work and relationship and, perhaps our health, that sort of thing. But whatever area that we're focusing on, we want to stop and look at it and recognize, is this what I want? And where is all this stuff about these beliefs, these opinions, these doubts, this stuff? Where's it all come from? And what we find is that we want to stop it all. We want to say, right, stop. This isn't who I am. But how do we do that? Because we've got all this pre-programmed stuff, this conditioning, this patterning that we've taken on board. And that's just for starters, because that's what's happened in this life, in this reality. And yet there's a lot of other factors. And this is why I find some people, they consciously clear a lot of stuff. I'm going to go and do this, and I understand that. But then underlying all of that becomes the deeper stuff, the stuff that our soul has set on its path for us. So this is where we come unstuck if we're not willing to connect with our soul, if we're not willing to be aware of our divine self, or higher self. I call it divine self. If we're not open to that, then we're really going to miss a trick, because we can dig and delve and we can do this, that, and the other, but we're not really going to find that happiness or what we're here for, that inner peace that we're kind of really all searching for, whether we're consciously choosing it or not. But talking about doubt, what is it that you doubt? Is it the information that you've received, or is it doubting about your own intuition, your own gut feeling, your own information? Does it feel right to you? So, there's a lot of confusion, or can be, around all of this stuff. If it's out of my control, if it's out of my conscious mind, and it's something to do with my soul, how do I get in alignment with that? And if it's stuff that's been pre-programmed, how do I release that? How do I get rid of it? How do I overcome these doubts that are cropping up for me? It's sort of like a big thing, or it can be, and it can be totally overwhelming. But I just want to make it simple and make it simplistic. There's a few things to know here. That you chose to come into this physical body. You chose to have the life experience, the parents that you've got, the body that you chose, those things, they were set, you've got them. This is who you are. So first of all, start accepting this is who I am. Because when we doubt and when we put kind of blame on others, which is really easy to do, it's because of them, it was because of this, it was happened because, there's all this because. But actually, that stuff, if you can kind of like take it on board, well, is it really about anyone else? No. So once you start to take on it's only about me, that's a really important thing to do. So you created yourself, or your soul, your higher self, source, created you. So that's the first thing. That should bring some relief to know that it's actually, you've got this, all right, because you were the one that created it all. That's really important. Second thing is, if you created it all, there's all this stuff that's happened to you, but that's because you wanted this experience. So kind of, again, okay, that could be true, couldn't it? You wanted this experience. So whatever's happened, whether you had, the wicked stuff that happened to you, the painful stuff that happened to you, is just being aware that on some level that it's all right. That it has happened, it is in the past. And yes, when you were a little baby, maybe you didn't have control over who did what to you, and growing up as a child also, you're still very influenced. But if you're an adult, if you're over, let's say, the age of 16 now, that's not an adult in perhaps in terms of society, that's what I was looking for, society, then, when you're old enough to understand that you are what you are. And I think this is why a lot of teenagers and that are having problems, because they wake up to the fact, to say there's no age on it, but you wake up to the fact that actually it's not about everybody else. Nobody knows how I feel. And if you've been a parent, you've had teenagers, or you've been a teenager yourself and had parents that have tried to control you, you'll understand why it's been so tough. Because, there's this part of you that says, hang on a minute, this is who I am, and they don't know me, but they think they do, and vice versa. We don't know anyone. The only person we know is ourselves, and that's why it's so important to know ourselves. And I'm going to go on and on and on about this through all the videos that you're going to see, is that we first have to acknowledge that. The parent thing will be another video, because that's something else, okay? And as a teenager, parent, or just basically human being. Anyway, back on track. Right, the important thing to remember is that we have to acknowledge that there must be a greater plan in some way, because we chose to be here, and if we accept that, and the things that have happened to me have happened to me, but now there suddenly comes to this point where you say, okay, enough is enough. I am now going to take control of this myself. And when we use the word control, we're not talking about manipulation. We're talking about empowerment. I'm empowering myself. It's okay for me to speak up and speak my mind. I will do it in a loving way, because I am essentially a loving being. We all are. Everything's been warped and twisted and like taken out of perspective. But actually, we're essentially, all of us, no matter what we've done, what crime we may have committed in the eyes of someone else, we are essentially all loving beings. That's where we stem from, and that's where we will return to. All the stuff that happens in between, all that bad stuff that I mentioned, all that, pain and abuse or violence or whatever it is that's happened to us, or maybe it's, mental manipulation or emotional blackmail or whatever. All of that happens. It's because most of us do not know how to control ourselves. That's all it boils down to. So if we can start to recognize those just basic things, we will shift. We will begin to awaken. We will begin to know that actually there's nothing outside of us controlling us. It's all about us. It's just somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way. You know, it's like that classic, our parents have done their best for us. They've brought us up to be good mannered, to be polite, you know, but they've done it their way. And remember what we said, they've done it like their parents and their parents and their parents and so on, or the caretakers that are around us. And they've all done their best. So if we can start to accept that everybody's been doing their best, but they haven't always got it right. I think that's a really positive statement to say. They haven't always got it right, but they have, for whatever reason, on some level, they've done their best. And then that kind of, this is probably freeing you up already if you're allowing yourself to start going with this. If not, maybe keep listening to it again, keep practicing it with yourself. You know, we can stop blaming others. We can stop projecting to someone else what really is we feel perhaps aggrieved about or angry about or annoyed about. If we can start to sort of turn it around and say, actually, do you know what, on some level there's a part of me that must have wanted that experience. You know, maybe that's true and maybe it's not. Maybe you could argue and say, no, I'm not giving in. It was about them. I'm blaming them. It was all their fault. They did this, my conditioning. And I hear that a lot and I see it a lot. And I'm telling you now, all it does is keep you stuck. If you really want to keep buying into that and carry on, but you know, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same result. And I know if you're listening to this, you want to break out of those patterns. You don't want to keep continuing along the same lines. You are willing to, but you've got to look at yourself. It's all about you. Okay, so once that happens, if you take that on board, it can feel very uncomfortable. I chose this. I chose this life, I chose this body, the bits I don't like, particularly the bits I don't like. What really would I have done that? Because we're always projecting as well. We're always looking out there, aren't we, and seeing someone else who's clever, better, more, you know, more intelligent, you know, got more money, is better at this, that and the other, and we wish we had it. And that creates, again, self-separation. We're looking outside of ourselves. That's whether we're blaming parents or we're seeing somebody who's got something they want, whether it's the government who we think are controlling us. You know, yeah, these things can be real, but where do you want to put your focus? Do you want to put your focus on those, or do you want to bring it back to yourself? I'm going to keep on saying this. Anyway, what I want you to do in this, you know, at this time is just be aware of the fact that these things could be true. If that's true, and this is the path to freedom, what we're all searching for, then I've got to start taking on board. But I just want to be really clear about something. It's not about blaming yourself, because if people stop projecting outwards on others, they sometimes then start blaming them. Well, I'm not good enough. I chose this life. Why would I have done this? If that's true, or why would I choose that really nasty experience? It's not about blaming yourself. If you're going to do that, you might as well start projecting it back and blaming it on others, because you're not going to get, you know, you're not going to break through this. But that could be a natural response. You start to blame yourself for what you may have chosen. And if I've chosen it, why would I have done that to myself? Well, that's actually a really good question. Why do we do those things to ourselves? So we're going to stop it, aren't we? From now on, we're going to stop it. We're going to be more gentle. We're going to be more loving to ourselves. We're going to start to soothe ourselves and say, it's okay. It's okay to be who I am, whether I like it or not. It's a good place to start. Whether I like who I am or I don't, it's a good place to start. Just soothing yourself. Just start to say, it's okay. I am what I am. That's a good one. I am what I am. I accept it. I accept who I am. Find peace in that. Because once you do, you will start to see things differently. And then what you're looking for ultimately is to love yourself. Every aspect of you in every way. And then your life changes and everything about it changes. You become that person who's living that life, living that dream. But the only way that it's going to happen is, first of all, this self-awareness. So I'm leaving this video with you to help you to become, more aware. We're in this together. None of us on this planet are any different. We all have confidence issues. We all doubt ourselves. We all get angry with ourselves. We all don't like ourselves at times. But the important thing to remember is we're all like it, but we're all raising our vibration as well, and we're all helping each other to change this. And this is the way that we do it. Self-acknowledgement, self-acceptance. Stop projecting onto others what really is about you. Feel those feelings, be who you are and stick with that. And then what will happen is you'll very gradually start to come through depression, fear, doubt, and awaken more to love and joy and peace. And then when we've got that really flowing, really flowing, then we can all as a group, as humanity, be living that life that is coming, that we're looking for, that we are here for. That's why we've chosen to be here. Okay. I'm Jessica Woods.